How do you bounce back when life knocks you out cold and you've got nothing left but $7 in a dream? That's not a metaphor. That was Dwayne Johnson's reality. Before he was The Rock, before global fame, before million-dollar movies and sold-out arenas, he was broke, rejected, and crushed by failure. At 23 years old, his football career was over. His dreams were shattered, and all he had to his name? $7? Not even enough for a full tank of gas. Most people would have given up. Most people would have believed the world when it said, "You're done." But Dwayne didn't listen. He didn't fold. He fought, quietly, relentlessly, without applause. Because true greatness isn't born in the spotlight. It's built in the dark, where no one's watching and no one's cheering. This isn't just a story about success. It's about grit, about losing everything and showing up anyway, about pushing through the pain, the doubt, and the fear one day at a time. Dwayne Johnson's journey proves something powerful. You don't need to be extraordinary to start. But if you're consistent, committed, and unshakable, you can become unstoppable. This is the real story of The Rock. Not the fame, not the flex, the fight. You don't grow strength from comfort. You build it through chaos. Before the muscles, before the movies, before the millions, Dwayne Johnson lived a life most wouldn't trade places with. His childhood wasn't filled with stability or success. It was filled with hardship, fear, and uncertainty. Born into a wrestling family, you might assume the path was already lit. But the lights were dim and the path was rocky. His father, Rocky Johnson, was a professional wrestler, but not the kind that came with financial security. The family lived paycheck to paycheck, often unsure where they'd sleep next month. By the time Dwayne was a teenager, his family had moved dozens of times. He watched his parents argue over rent. He saw his mother cry after being evicted again. One time, they returned home to find their furniture locked outside the apartment. That moment, that visual of broken dreams piled on the curb, burned into his memory. In high school, he struggled to fit in. He fought often, got arrested multiple times, and surrounded himself with the wrong people. His self-worth was shattered before he ever got a chance to build it. But pain has a strange way of pushing people to decide, stay broken, or build something. For Dwayne, that push came through sports. He discovered football, and with it, a new outlet for his frustration. He started lifting weights, training harder, staying longer. It wasn't about looking strong. It was about becoming someone who could survive what life kept throwing at him. He didn't talk much back then about the emotional weight he carried. But every rep in the gym, every sprint on the field, was his way of saying, "I'm not quitting." That's what makes his early life so powerful. He didn't have role models with yachts or mentors with millions. He had struggle, and he turned that into strength. The world would later see him as unstoppable. But the truth is, he was just unbreakable. When your biggest dream dies, it doesn't bury you. It reveals who you really are. For most of his young life, Dwayne Johnson believed football would save him. It wasn't just a sport, it was a way out. Out of poverty, out of struggle, out of the pain that followed him like a shadow. Football gave him hope, structure, and a sense of identity. He worked hard and earned a full scholarship to play at the University of Miami, one of the top college football programs in the country. He was part of a championship team, surrounded by future NFL stars. On paper, he was living the dream. But behind the scenes, things weren't going according to plan. Injuries piled up. Opportunities slipped away. Eventually, he lost his starting position. And just like that, the dream he'd poured everything into began to collapse. Still holding on, Dwayne chased one last shot joining the Canadian Football League. He signed with the Calgary Stampeders. He thought this was the moment everything would change. It didn't. Just 2 months into the season, he was cut from the team. Fired. Done. He flew back home with nothing but a bag, a broken dream, and $7 in his wallet. That's not just a number, it's a symbol, a reminder of rock bottom, of staring failure in the face and deciding whether to stay down or rise. Most people only see the version of the rock who stands tall and confident. But before that man existed, there was a young guy in a tiny apartment, too embarrassed to tell anyone how far he'd fallen. Dwayne later admitted that this was the lowest point in his life. Depressed, lost, angry. He had no job, no backup plan, and no idea what was next. But something inside him refused to quit. It's easy to believe in yourself when everything's going right. The real test is when nothing is. And in that moment of silence, failure gave Dwayne something more valuable than fame ever could: clarity. He didn't know the path, but he made a decision. Whatever comes next, I'll own it, I'll build it, I'll outwork it. Sometimes your second choice becomes your greatest calling. After football crumbled, Dwayne Johnson stood at a crossroads. The dream he chased for years was gone, and with just $7 to his name, the weight of failure pressed hard. But instead of retreating, he looked toward the one thing he once swore he'd avoid: professional wrestling. His father had wrestled. His grandfather had wrestled. But Dwayne wanted to create his own identity. Now, with nothing left, he stepped into the family business, not with excitement, but with desperation and a sliver of hope. He began his WWE journey under the name Rocky Maivia, a tribute to his father and grandfather. He smiled. He played the good guy. He did what the company expected, and the crowd hated it. They booed him, chanting, "Die, Rocky, die," every time he entered the arena. Imagine that, after losing your dream, starting fresh, and still getting rejected. But instead of folding again, Dwayne adapted. He dropped the smiling rookie act and found his voice. His real voice. He turned heel, became cocky, loud, unpredictable, and unapologetically himself. He called himself The Rock. And the moment he owned that identity, everything changed. The fans didn't just love it, they couldn't get enough. His charisma exploded. Catchphrases like, "Can you smell what The Rock is cooking?" became pop culture staples. And in just a few years, he went from being booed out of the building to becoming one of the most beloved and electrifying figures in WWE history. Second, stay humble. No matter how high he climbs, he always looks back at where he started. He talks openly about the days of eviction, the $7 in his pocket, and the fear of not making it. That memory keeps him grounded and hungry. Third, embrace the struggle. Instead of hiding his failures, he owns them. He uses them. Because for Dwayne, struggle isn't a setback. It's a signal that you're growing. And finally, lift others up. He knows his story inspires people, so he shares it. He reminds us all, greatness doesn't come from talent alone, it comes from resilience. Dwayne's life proves one thing. You don't have to be born successful. You just have to decide you won't quit. Your rock bottom could be the start of your rise, if you choose to stand. Dwayne Johnson's story isn't just about muscles, fame, or money. It's about momentum. It's about what happens when you refuse to stay down. From being a broke 23-year-old with just $7 to becoming a global icon, his life reminds us that success isn't something you stumble into. It's something you build with pain, with persistence, and with purpose. He failed. He adapted. He reinvented. And he never stopped showing up. And that's the real lesson here. You don't need the perfect plan. You just need to keep going when nothing makes sense. Because the breakthrough you're looking for might be hiding inside the very breakdown you're trying to survive. So if you're feeling stuck, lost, or defeated, remember this: you don't need to be the rock to rise from rock bottom. You just need the courage to start climbing. If this story inspired you, hit the like button, drop a comment, And don't forget to subscribe. There's someone out there right now who needs this reminder. Be the reason they keep going. Your comeback starts today.